Chapter 31. A Song in the Dark. The terrible, foul odor of the dungeon did not bother Meg. Perhaps that is because sometimes when Uncle was giving her a good clout to the ear, he missed his mark and delivered a good clout to Meg's nose instead. This happened often enough that it interrupted the proper workings of Meg's olfactory senses. And so it was that the overwhelming stench of despair and hopelessness and evil was not at all discernible to her, and she went happily down the twisting and turning stairs. "Gore," she shouted, "it's dark, ain't it?" "Yes, it is, Meg," she answered herself. "But if I was a princess, I would be so glittery light-like there wouldn't be a place in the world that was dark to me." At this point, Miggery Sow broke into a little song that went something like this. "I ain't the Princess Pea, but someday I will be the Pea, ha-hee, someday I will be." Meg, as you can imagine, wasn't much of a singer, more of a bellower, really. But in her little song there was, to the rightly tuned ear, a certain kind of music. And as Meg went singing down the stairs of the dungeon, there appeared from the shadows a rat, wrapped in a cloak of red and wearing a spoon on his head. "Yes, yes," whispered the rat, "a lovely song, just the song I've been waiting to hear." And Roscuro quietly fell in step beside Miggery Sow. At the bottom of the stairs, Mig shouted out into the darkness, "Gore, it's me, Miggery Sow. Most calls me Mig, delivering your food. Come and get it, Mr. Deepdowns." There was no response. The dungeon was quiet, but it was not quiet in a good way. It was quiet in an ominous way. It was quiet in the way of small, frightening sounds. There was the snail-like slither of water oozing down the walls, and from around a darkened corner there came the low moan of someone in pain. And then, too, there was the noise of the rats going about their business, their sharp nails hitting the stones of the dungeon and their long tails dragging behind them through the blood and the muck. Reader, if you were standing in the dungeon, you would certainly hear all of these disturbing and ominous sounds. If I were standing in the dungeon, I would hear those sounds. If we were standing together in the dungeon, we would hear these sounds and we would be very frightened. We would cling to each other in our fear. But what did Miggery Sow hear? That's right, absolutely nothing. And so she was not afraid at all, not in the least. She held the tray up higher, and the candle shed its weak light on the towering pile of spoons and bowls and kettles. "Gore," said Meg, "look at them things. I ain't never imagined there could be so many spoons in the whole wide world." "There is more to this world than anyone could imagine," said a voice from the darkness. "True, true," whispered Roscuro. "The old jailer speaks true." "Gore," said Meg, "who said that?" And she turned in the direction of the jailer's voice. Chapter 32. Beware of the Rats. The candlelight on Meg's tray revealed Gregory limping toward her, the thick rope tied around his ankle, his hands outstretched. "You, Gregory presumes, have brought food for the jailer?" "Gore," said Meg. She took a step backward. "Give it here," said Gregory. And he took the tray from Meg and sat down on an overturned kettle that had rolled free from the tower. He balanced the tray on his knees and stared at the covered plate. "Gregory assumes that today again there's no soup?" "Eh?" said Meg. "Soup!" shouted Gregory. "Illegal!" shouted Meg back. "Most foolish," muttered Gregory, as he lifted the cover off the plate. "Too foolish to be born, a world without soup." He picked up a drumstick and put the whole of it in his mouth and chewed and swallowed. "Here," said Meg, staring hard at him. "You forgot the bones." "Not forgotten. Chewed." "Gore," said Meg, staring at Gregory with respect. "You eat the bones? You are most ferocious." Gregory ate another piece of chicken, a wing, bones and all, and then another. Meg watched him admiringly. "Someday," she said, moved suddenly to tell this man her deepest wish, "I will be a princess." At this pronouncement, Chiaroscuro, who was still at Meg's side, did a small, deliberate jig of joy. In the light of the one candle, his dancing shadow was large and fearsome indeed. "Gregory sees you," Gregory said to the rat's shadow. Roscuro ceased his dance. He moved to hide beneath Meg's skirts. "Eh?" shouted Meg. "What's that?" "Nothing," said Gregory. "So you aim to be a princess. Well, everyone has a foolish dream. Gregory, for instance, dreams of a world where soup is legal. And that rat, Gregory is sure, has some foolish dream too." "If only you knew," whispered Roscuro. "What?" shouted Meg. Gregory said nothing more. Instead, he reached into his pocket and then held his napkin up to his face and sneezed into it once, twice, 3 times. "Bless you!" shouted Mig. "Bless you, bless you!" "Back to the world of light," Gregory whispered. And then he balled the napkin up and placed it on the tray. "Gregory's done," he said, and he held the tray out to Mig. "Done, are you? Then the tray goes back upstairs. Cook says it must. You take the tray to the deep downs, you wait for the old man to eat, and then you bring the tray back. Them's my instructions." "Did they instruct you, too, to beware of the rats?" "The what?" "The rats. What about 'em?" "Beware of 'em," shouted Gregory. "Right," said Mig. "Beware the rats." Roscuro, hidden beneath Mig's skirts, rubbed his front paws together. "Warn her all you like, old man," he whispered. "My hour has arrived. The time is now, and your rope must break. No nibbling this time. Rather a serious chew that will break it in 2. Yes, it is all coming clear. Revenge is at hand."